Hello, my name is Billy Zumuhoza and I am your host today. Today we're talking about something important, which is data protection in Rwanda. What you as an organization can do and what you as a citizen can demand and of course take care of yourself. As we know, compliance is not just a paper on the wall. It is in our daily behavior and it is our responsibility. Today I'm sitting with two phenomenal guests from National Cybersecurity Authority in Data Protection and Privacy Office. If you could introduce yourself in one sentence and possibly define how compliance goes beyond registration.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Gerald Karuhanga from Data Protection Office.
Thank you very much. I am Benjamin Deshawandi and I am part of the National Cybersecurity Authority team in charge of data protection and privacy. Thank you.
Compliance is beyond registration. It's very important to establish that because there's a misconception usually that when data controllers and data processors register and obtain registration certificates, they tend to hold it as if it's a compliance certificate. And reasonably, that's not the case because it's just first step just to be recognized by the supervisory authority. But reasonably, compliance itself is a journey. It's really beyond a paper. It's a day-to-day commitment, culture that should be upheld in the institutions to make sure people's data is kept private, secured, respected, and reasonably to track each and every transaction and make sure people's privacy is assured. Thank you.
Thank you for the good answer. Maybe to set the scene, have you ever received a call and someone knows your name, your previous job, your district, where you live, so much information, and you ask yourself, how does this person know this information about me? That is what we are unpacking. We're unpacking how compliance is important, but it's not just for big companies. But before we dive deep, maybe you can say, what is one misconception that people have about data protection that you wish organizations or individuals could unlearn that makes them not truly understand what data protection is?
Yes, thank you very much. As my colleague has said, being registered is one thing that all organizations think that they have already been compliant and they have everything in place. But I think to stipulate or to explain more, being registered is one step of compliance, but you need to have different tools in place. You need to have policies that govern data protection in your institution. You need to have rights cleared out or published in your institution for the citizens to understand that you do respect privacy and you do protect personal data.
Interesting. I would want to also touch on something regarding, maybe I'll set the scene for people to understand. Imagine a company's database is a room full of real people.
Yes.
And if that information is wrong, we are treating these people like they're in a frozen time.
Yes.
We're not updating it. What could be the dangers when data is outdated? Why do we have to keep updating it, and what could possibly go wrong?
Yes. So in terms of processing personal data that is inaccurate, as one of the principles of the data protection and privacy law is to have accurate data. So if you're processing information that I no longer use, there's a breach of information. You're just processing data that is irrelevant to what is required for the service. So in order to keep up accuracy, you need to publish the rights, as I've said, put a room or a data protection officer in charge of accepting rights, advising, and in this, when I'm saying this, I'm advising the data subjects, which are the citizens. Whenever you've approached an organization and have they collected your personal data, please feel free to approach them and request for update of your personal data in order for them to have information that is right, because they might process accurate information and it may lead to a breach and which may lead to unlawful processing, which later on may lead to administrative sanctions, where the data protection of the organization didn't be accountable of updating or even advising the data subjects of their rights.
It's also, I guess, risky to the data subject themselves.
Right.
Because imagine if you called someone else who is not you, just because there has been changes in your personal information. Let's say you changed your name, or you changed the phone number, or you changed the address, but it's not rectified yet in the database, or it is being used by other people as the old information. Who is going to reach you? They might even reach out when they think they are reaching out to you, and they don't find you. So you miss opportunities in that context, but you also it's also risky to you as a person, because it's not right, it's not updated,
right.
It's not you. That's what it means. So that's a challenge. It really undermines you yourself as a data subject, as a one who is who that information relates to, because there is a gap.
Right.
That's literally not you, or that information is not related to you.
So what both of you are saying is very crucial, but now I would want to understand who is responsible, because we see that privacy or data protection, some people put it on one person, they put it on one department. Who is responsible? And if they are to be responsible, what steps can they take?
Yes, everyone in an institution is responsible for data protection and privacy. So as you've asked about what people mistakenly considers data protection, who is in charge of data protection, and they do pin it on the data protection officer. So as it's one thing that you have a data protection officer in place who will oversee the compliance and the journey of compliance. But the data protection begins from the managerial level up to the lowest level. So if it's the manager, they need to understand the delicacy or the importance of data protection in the institution. Each individual in the institution should understand the importance of data protection and privacy.
This is everyone's responsibility in the institution, because the institution is not just one person or one department. And those who touch personal information, it's not that one person. So people should really have that responsibility, ownership of making sure this is more like a culture within the institution. From the data collection to all the processes that are happening on the data until data destruction. Everybody, because this is not a role of just data protection officer, because that's just one office.
Right.
We have HR office, we have accounting, we have auditing, we have the managers, the directors, the finance. All those touch personal information. So if any of them would just say, okay, this doesn't concern me, this is for the DPO, or this is for maybe the management, that would not make any sense. It needs ownership by almost everyone to make sure this data, wherever it reaches, it's well maintained, it's accounted for, and it's secure.
So it has to become like a culture.
Yes.
Definitely.
It concerns everyone.
Exactly.
Okay. So now let's bring it back to citizens, what we see on a daily basis. There's a saying that says small habits can lead to big consequences, whether good or bad. I'll give an example. Me, like myself, when I open tabs on computers on different platforms, there's a thing that comes accept cookies. What am I accepting, to be honest?
Yes, thank you very much. So in terms of the cookies, for example, it's something that was developed to manage or to monitor behavior of you on a platform. So if you do accept cookies without checking the cookies that are relevant to what you're going to do on the website or any platform, then you're giving them the right to monitor your behavior, which can be used after a period of time, because that's the backside of the institution. that is monitoring. Next time you will see, for example, if you use different platforms, a lot of people use TikTok.
Yeah.
And then when you say something where you search something,
It
for
appears.
example, yes, when you say I want a car, and then you see everything that you're scrolling in is only cars. So you've accepted them to monitor your behavior, so they're watching whatever you're doing. So if I do click essential cookies and say I want you just to process my personal data when I am using this platform.
So when that platform is open, that's it. Okay. That's scary, by the way.
Yeah, that's why every citizen should first read before just clicking anything, because you need to understand why am I clicking the cookie, what is embedded in that cookie, because they have different options.
Yes.
Sometimes they tell you for remembering you once you log in. So you need to say, even I don't want you to remember me. I know my password. I know all my login credentials. So you need to be awake. That's how I can call it.
Okay, yes. And then maybe another one that I should learn, or the person watching could learn, is the one that ask app to track, because you can either accept or not.
Yes.
And some people, when they deactivate their location, they think they're safe and everything is done. But across other apps, what should people do?
People should. One thing is to first check all the rights that you have on the app, because disabling the location doesn't mean that you've disabled all the backside tracking tools that they're using. So in terms of using a platform, first read a privacy policy that have been implemented in place. A lot of people ignore the privacy policy.
They don't have the time.
It's put on the footer,
right.
But it has all the information in terms of collection. So if they're going to collect your name, your location, everything, you are aware that if I do consent or accept the cookie or put on the location, this is what they see. And in terms of where we are now, data is the currency.
Yes.
We are no longer in money. Data is the currency. So if I have your location, I have your name, I can call myself you. So I can use every information. So that's why reading is something that we have to do, but put in mind privacy policies that have been published by the certain provider of the app, and then know how to use the app. But disabling the location, saying that ask app not to track me, it's not legally or enough to say that I know my data is protected. No, you have the rights, and if you don't feel comfortable, you can communicate via their tool where you can ask, why are you tracking this? I want you to stop tracking this. I want to use this and this. Yes, because the rights are stipulated and very well clear in the law.
I would urge everyone watching to really educate yourself on these things, because it protects someone and it's truly crucial. Another thing I've seen is the 2FA, which is the two-factor authentication.
Yes.
Most people see it as stress. They're like, I would just want to get to the platform and this is not important. Sure. Maybe educate or elaborate how this is important for our privacy and safety.
So thank you. We have different tools that are like two-factor authentication. We do have multi-factor authentication. We have different tools that act as a more layer of security apart from password. Because a lot of people think password is the only safest thing that I have. Because brute forcing the password is very easy. Because sometimes a lot of people, we use our date of birth, the person I love, for example, I can say Gerard at 123. Yeah. So if I think that I've created a weak password, I'm not saying that passwords are not good to use, but adding an extra layer of security, two-factor authentication, which is directly assigned to me. Sometimes it comes in an SMS, a pop-up. Sometimes it comes in an application. Sometimes it comes in an email. It's a one-time password that is used to enter the tool, if it's an email, if it's an application, which gives security that I know my data or anything that I'm processing on this app is really protected. I am the only one that has access. If I want to grant access, they will ask me. Yes. Yeah.
I've also noticed that on these, especially iPhones, I'm not sure with other users, there's a way it sends you that your password has been leaked.
Yes.
Is it because we're using weak passwords, or is it actually because they have our information and our passwords somehow they have
No.
guessed through our behavior?
It's not because they have your password, because in terms of having a password, we have, I think I'm going to add something. We have what we tell different institutions to implement. It's called encryption. When anything is being processed via any tool, if it's being stored within Rwanda or outside Rwanda, it should be encrypted at rest and in transit, because the password that you're sending or you're creating will be encrypted once it goes to the database. But when they tell you that your password is being used, it's because someone tried to attempt to log in into your credentials. For example, if it's an Outlook or a Gmail, and someone maybe guessed, because they have different, in terms of coding or programming, they've set different times that you can try to enter into a system. You might try to log in the password 3 times, and then they will send the owner an email that someone is trying to enter into your account. So that's another layer of security that was put in place by the service providers, maybe Gmail, iPhone, different platforms, for you to be safe, because they've already informed you, and they do say kindly change the password if it's not you that was trying to access.
That's true. They actually do.
Because they're advising you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. So now I would want to know, because these platforms ask us some random questions. Me as an individual who doesn't know some of these things, which question should I know how to answer? Which question should I choose not to answer? What should I ask myself before I approve and just accept? Are there like any checklists, mental quick checklists I can use that?
For example, yes, to answer your question, I'm going to give a brief example. If we have an application, I don't know why I'm continuing using application, but if I want a service and I go to a hospital, and then, or it's an app that I log in order I go to the hospital when everything has been logged in, and one of the placeholders is requesting me to say, how many loans do I have? So in terms of you thinking quickly, you will ask, I want to be treated, but why are they asking me to say loans that I have acquired? If I have 2 different loans, it doesn't concern my medical health. So for example, if I'm going to ask for a loan and they ask me, what's your health status? If I am sick of any disease, God forbid, there's no need of the bank knowing that I need to. So that's why anything, for example, if you're acquiring a service, you need to put in mind anything, the KYC, no information that they are requesting me, aligns with the service they are going to give me. If it's in terms of a service and they ask me, how many children do I have, I will ask them, is it related? Because I have the right to know. Yes.
So sometimes they're just nosy. And speaking of nosy, I'm going to ask a few questions, and one of you will tell me if it's nosy or necessary. Maybe I'll give a scenario. A restaurant asks for my national ID to use their Wi-Fi.
Okay, that's nosy, I guess.
Very nosy.
Not necessary.
Because it's irrelevant.
It's relevant to the service, yeah.
Another one, a delivery app asks for microphone permission.
To do what?
Good. Now I'm getting the point you're trying to make. A school shares student photos with a third-party app.
For what purpose? Because as we've said, we have different laws in terms of the law relating to personal data. There is a slot or an article, sorry to say, because that's a legal person. I won't say a slot. It's an article, Article 49 or 48, that says transfer of personal data. So you can't just publish or transfer personal data to a third party without, one, explicit consent of the data subject. In terms of students, a guardian or a parent must consent to that, because it has all the legal procedure, all the flow in terms of you to publish. Because that's, if we do find an institution that operates in the education sector and they're publishing photos to third parties or sharing to third parties, that's unlawful processing. So that's why if any of person or student finds their photo somewhere else where they did not consent, that's why you need to come file a complaint to our office or call 9080 for any advice for how to proceed with the case that keep them.
And then last one, a clinic collects your home address for checkup.
For checkup?
What checkup?
That's nosy.
Wouldn't that be necessary?
No, my home is not the
address?
clinic.
Okay, you're right.
But you can
Checkup?
collect my phone number if
Yes.
you want to remind me for the checkup. But you can't collect my home address.
Sometimes these forms ask us to actually fill
Don't
in.
fill it. That's your right.
That's
if they ask, you ask them, why are you collecting this?
Because it's a checkup delivery.
I'm actually glad we're having this conversation because I'm learning a lot and this is very good.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe when it comes to legal, we can dive into the actionable steps.
Mm-hmm.
For example, for organizations, like a compliance checklist today, if someone wants to take the steps, what are the steps required?
Well, thank you so much. This is, of course, to back up the fact that registration itself is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So what's enough? What is required?
Mm-hmm.
What more steps? What should organizations do? Well, the law provides for vast obligations that the organizations can put in place, can respect to make sure personal data they deal with is protected. And of course, registration is a key because there you are recognized as someone who processes personal data, either on their behalf as data controllers or on behalf of data controllers as data processors. And next, the law also talks about appointing or designating a data protection officer. Organizations should have a data protection officer who leads the implementation of this culture, of this law within their organizations, but also who act as contact person between the organization and the supervisory authority, or else even the organization and even the data subjects, because data subjects have the rights that they're entitled to, that they should exercise, and the contact person in that context should be the data protection officer. And also the law bridges data controllers and data processors to maintain the records of processing. Yeah, imagine you processed some data some time ago and you can't trace it now.
I see. Yeah.
It's really risky. And in the inspection and assessments we do, we need to know the processing history, what you collected, what you shared, what you deleted, what you analyzed, or the decision making you got from the data, and we need to know the details. So if you don't maintain those data, then you can't protect what you don't know, what you don't actually have. Next, reasonably, as my colleague has been saying, when the organization transfers or stores personal data outside of Rwanda, the law puts another obligation of authorization from the authority. Well, when it comes to transfer, there are other options like consent of the data subject or necessity as is described in the law, but there's also authorization from the supervisory authority after showing the appropriate safeguards that data is going to be safe where it has gone. And specifically on the storage, outside storage, it's a must. When there is outside storage of personal data, the controller or processor in question should seek authorization from the authority beforehand. And also security. The law bridges the data controllers and processors to implement both organizational and technical security measures to make sure the data they process is safe. And the law also attaches much more safeguards when the institution is processing sensitive personal data. Yeah, when, of course, the law defines what sensitive personal data means. These data related to our social origin, our biometrical, genetical information, our health status, as my colleague has been establishing, the religious and philosophical beliefs, the political opinion, the family details, the medical records. The law has the list.
Yes.
So those sensitive data should have additional safeguards while protecting them, because violating them poses a higher risk to the data subject. And also the law talks about when it comes to the obligations, maybe my colleague can jump in and probably if he remembers something else. But the law reasonably recognizes that there can be partnerships in data processing. You may engage some other organization to process on your behalf. And if that's the case, then there should be data processing agreement between you, the data controller, and the processor who is processing on your behalf, for them to feel the obligation of safeguarding that data as you can safeguard it yourself, or even as the data subject can safeguard it themselves. Yeah, so the law provides for it's more like a culture.
Yeah.
It's a continuous assessment that should be carried out internally by the organization to make sure each and every. Also, the law talks about observing data protection principles. My colleague talked a little about it, but the law provides for data protection principles to be observed while processing personal information. And among them, there is lawfulness, transparency, and fairness. When you're processing personal information, you should observe that. You are processing lawfully, you're transparent, communication between the one processing the information and the data subject, and also fairly. It doesn't pose a threat or to the data subject. And also the law talks about another principle of purpose limitation. Why are you processing data? There should be a specific purpose as to why you're collecting data from the data subject. What are you using it for? There should be, you can't process anyhow.
Yeah.
For any reason. There should be a specific purpose in the first place before you even get the data from the data subject. And also data minimization. If we have a purpose already, why don't we collect only the data needed for us to achieve that purpose? As you've been mentioning on statements that might seem nosy or necessary, it wouldn't be necessary. If it is not necessary, then there's no need to collect it, because you should minimize data only to achieve the purpose that you collected data for. Another one is accuracy. You've been talking about it. Data should be accurate. That's why the law provides for the right to rectification. Data must be accurate and must be rectified if it is changed for updates. And also the law also talks about storage limitation. Why do you keep this data longer than necessary? Why? If the purpose ceases to exist and there is no any other purpose or no legal obligation for you to keep that data, there's no need to keep it anymore. And also accountability. Should be accountable for the safety of the data. The last one would be observing data subject's rights. That's an obligation. What I'm talking about is something beyond registration that institutions should do to make sure this data is safe. Data subjects under the law are entitled to some rights on their data. And among others, there is a right to access their data. An institution is processing your data. Maybe you're an employee of the institution and they're processing on the purposes of HR management, let's say, for example, or the execution of an employment contract. And you want a copy of your data they have.
You're allowed to receive it.
You're allowed to write to them and say, hey, I want a copy of the data, personal information you have for me, and they are obliged actually to provide that data because you have the right to access. Also, if your data is it has changed, let's say your ID has changed, you know, when you misplace your ID and you request for another one, some digits change. Those institutions that are processing that ID need to update according to the new ID. So you can write to the institutions and say, hey, my ID is no longer the other one you have.
Please update.
Please update. This is not mine. Okay. Mine is this. So you have that right. And also Portability, very important. You have the right to request the institution, the data controller or data processor, to transfer your data where you want it. For example, you are changing employment, let's say, for example. Do you need to go reintroduce yourself to a new employer when you had an existing employer who has all the information? You have the right to write to the previous employer to transfer your data to the new employer for you to go when the information is already there. You don't repeat. That's your right. Also erasure, though not absolute, but erasure also is a right of the data subject entitled to by the law.
Yeah.
You don't need your data to be processed anymore. You want them to be deleted. Well, there's a right to object processing, but also the right to erasure. They can keep the data, but do not process it some other ways. Maybe they keep with it, but they do not transfer. That is objective processing. But erasure is total deletion. If there is no legal obligation to keep that data any longer, and you no longer want that data to be processed, you can request the institution in question to delete your data. So data controllers and data processors have the obligation to put in place the procedures to make sure data subjects' rights are realized and respected. They have actually 30 days to respond to those requests if made. If they don't, or they do not reply accordingly, then the data subject has the right to lodge an appeal before the supervisory authority, which is National Cybersecurity Authority Data Protection Office, for redress. I guess I can summarize it in that way.
Okay.
Maybe my colleague would add something if it's there, but it's really beyond registration.
Yes.
It's a commitment, it's accountability.
It's a responsibility
it's
for everyone.
Responsibility for everyone to keep tracking, is this data safe? Are data subjects' rights respected? Are we really doing well when it comes to our obligations in the law?
Yeah.
So it's a continuous process. It's not just one-time act.
So for me as a citizen, give me 2 steps I can take to make sure I am safe. That was more on the organizational part, which was very well explained. But as a citizen, what advice would you give me?
Well, thank you so much. That's a very good question. When it gets to the audience, to the general citizens.
Yes.
Well, I can answer that in 2 words. One, citizens should know their rights when it comes to protection of their data. And number 2, they should know their responsibilities when it comes to protection of their own data. Well, citizens process data of citizens. Our personal information is within us. I have your data, you have my data, you have someone else's data, and you have also your data. So protecting data should be everyone's responsibility. Not just an organization there that has employed you, not just those that give you service, not just the national registry where we are registered, but ourselves. It begins with ourselves. How do we protect the data? How do we value the personal information we have? How do we talk about or conceive this culture of personal data protection? I can give some risky examples that usually citizens do, and they forget that they have a responsibility not to do that. Someone can call you and ask for someone else's information. Hey,
I've seen that happen a lot.
Yes.
And it's not okay.
Hey, good morning. Do you have someone else's phone number? Please share. Anyhow you share, because that's probably a friend, or that's for someone from an institution you know, or that's someone you think they will not do any harm to that person. Or do you know where so and so lives? But did he shift? Yes, he shifted. He lives at no. And you
We need to sit down and process, honestly.
You get it.
Yeah.
But also your data. Someone else is taking a picture or a video somewhere, and you're in the video, and you can't say, hey, but you need my consent to have my picture or my whatever. You get it. So, and you keep quiet. You say, but how are they going to consent me I say something. This is okay.
Me, I speak.
Yeah.
I've seen it. People put you in camera like, excuse me, I'm not okay with being in camera. Because you never know what people are using this information for.
So you get it. It's okay for you to know your rights.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I need to consent to this because I don't know the purposes why you're collecting this.
Exactly.
And before consent, you need to explain to me what you're going to use this data. Or if I am not needed in the interface, in the camera, let me go aside and you take whoever you want to take, and I will come back later. So being responsible, being accountable, owning this responsibility of making sure people's data you have, but also your data should be safe, is still a big gap in the citizen's perspective. We think we need some other things more than our privacy. We think we need money. Someone gives you money, they take everything. Even if you take the footage, even if you take everything, it's okay, as long as I get money. And also, if I sign a contract, whatever they ask, I don't ask, but come on, is this needed, really, to process this data, to give me this service? I don't bother because that's a contract, there is money. If I'm in the bank and I'm asking for a loan, it's just because I need money urgently. Whatever the information they collect, I'm okay with it. I just feel blindly.
Without reading,
because I need money. And I sign without reading, what they are providing. So people still have this misconception that their privacy doesn't matter. And they also seem other people's privacy not to matter when it comes to their responsibility, which is risky. Because when it backfires, when your privacy is really violated and it poses a big risk to you, that's when you realize that, I would have been careful before. So what I have to say to tell citizens is that they need to be responsible, but they also need to know the rights. As we've been establishing those rights, actually there's even a right to designate an heir if you think you will need those data even after your death. You can designate someone to look after your personal information in a will.
In a will, okay.
Just like you designate an heir to any of your properties.
I see.
You can leave a will behind so that data, that privacy will still be respected and accounted for even after you. Sure. So I think that would be...
I think you've really explained it well, and the first step is awareness, which is the great information both of you, and we truly appreciate your time here. Maybe as we conclude, you can give us a brief conclusion before we exit.
As my colleague talked about the compliance journey, the compliance journey is not a hard thing to do or to comply, because it's stipulated by the law, it has been stipulated by the office, and the office has provided all the tools that are required for you to fully be compliant with the law. We've published different tools that any institution might use in terms of compliance. And to the citizens, we've made room for you where you can complain, know your rights, and if you don't even understand your rights, one of our responsibilities is to guide data controllers, data processors, and data subjects. If you don't understand any right, or if you feel your rights are not respected, you can call our toll-free number 9080, you can write to us, or you can even log a complaint, and then we may guide you in the right way.
How may I log a complaint?
We have a form on our website where you fill everything, your information, what right was not respected, who did that, which institution, where was it done, and then you submit it to our office. And then I think you automatically get a response, or we may even call you immediately in order for you to come to our office, and then we guide you in the right way, and we help you feel that your rights are respected and your rights matter.
Okay, we'll put all the information down here on the screen. Thank you so much for your time. This has been very informative. Personally, I've learned, and I hope you have learned as well. To organizations, make sure to take the steps, and to us as citizens, protect your data the way you protect your money, because it has a lot of value. Thank you and see you next time.